Ecclesiastes chapter 2. I want to start with a question. I'm going to ask you, how often do you think about eternity? I'll let that sit for just a minute. How often do you think about eternity? I would guess that most people, maybe even Christians, would say not very often, or certainly not often enough. Is it possible, to add to this, that we go through most of our days, weeks, maybe even months and years, disconnected from eternity? Now, no, none of us have experienced eternity. I understand that. It's an experience yet to be experienced by all of us. But by faith, we know, and we believe in it. We know it's going to happen at some point. When, we don't know, but we're ready. We hope we're ready. And so I think that maybe that contributes to it sometimes. Maybe we don't. I know for a fact. I'm speaking at least for myself. I don't think about eternity as often as I should. If it's true, if that's true, that we don't think about eternity as often as we should, we need to ask ourselves the question that we asked the last couple weeks: does God matter? Does God matter? You're here tonight because God matters to you. I believe that to be true. But in Ecclesiastes, Solomon writes about life from a perspective that is disconnected from eternity. And he wants us to ask, he doesn't ask it in the book, but reading through it, you can tell, Solomon is trying to get his readers to ask themselves, does God matter? And he's getting to that question, or he wants us to ask that question by he explores the concept, what if this life is all there is? Again, he doesn't ask that question, but he's living his life exploring this concept. Is this life all there is? And Solomon searches for meaning disconnected from God as we read through Ecclesiastes, and he documents this experiment in this book that we know to be Ecclesiastes. He documents everything that he does. And if it's true that life is all there is, then we have to conclude, as Solomon does, life under the sun is vanity of vanities. Nothing matters. It's meaningless. It's empty. It's not fulfilling. And the best we can hope for is a better than average, empty life. It's all we can hope for. Doesn't sound too great when you put it that way. But if there's more to life than what we see, and God does matter, then everything changes in light of eternity. And so in Ecclesiastes chapter 1, Solomon observes that the world goes around and around and around and nothing changes, and that human life is the same. People born or people live life and then die, and then that cycle of life happens again and again and again. And he says that shows that life under the sun, disconnected from eternity, is meaningless. And then at the end of chapter 1, he searches out a life of practical wisdom and knowledge, and ultimately he found that to be vanity as well. No satisfaction in it. And if you have your Bibles and you haven't already, look at Ecclesiastes chapter 2. And we're going to look at the vanity of pleasure. This is what Solomon explores next. The chapter begins with a statement of Solomon's experiment. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's how I'm going to go about this. And he says, I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself. In his very best effort, Solomon is going to attempt to make himself happy and find fulfillment by giving himself every desire of his heart. If Solomon sees it and he wants it, he's going to have it. If he can't have it, or if he can't just be his, he's going to buy it. He's going to do everything that his heart wants to do. If there's anything in his heart that his heart says, this looks fun, this looks great, there may be enjoyment in that, there may be pleasure in that, there may be satisfaction in that. Whatever it is, Solomon is going to do it. He's going to do it. And he's quick to state the outcome of this experiment. Before he recounts to us what he does, he's quick to give us the outcome. And he says in chapter 2, the second half of verse 1 and verse 2, "But behold, this also was vanity. I said of laughter, it was mad, and of pleasure, what use is it?" Ultimately, his experiment leaves him empty as well. Let's look at everything that Solomon did in an attempt to fill the emptiness in his life. Turn to Ecclesiastes 2. We're going to look at verses 3 through 9. He says, "I searched with my heart and how to cheer my body with wine, my heart still guiding me with wisdom, and how to lay hold of folly, till I might see what was good for the children of man to do under heaven," that's the idea of under the sun, "during the few days of their life. I made great works. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and parks and planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water the forest of growing trees. I bought male and female slaves, and I had slaves who were born in my house. I also had great possessions of herds and flocks, more than any who had been before me in Jerusalem. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the treasure of kings and provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, and the delight of the sons of man." This is what he says. And let's read verse 9 as well. "So I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me." Solomon spared no expense. He drank the best wines. He went to the best restaurants. He bought his dream home. He installed the best swimming pools. He landscaped his yard, probably got yard of the month or the year, planted trees and gardens. He had butlers and maids. It did everything for him. If Solomon saw something he thought would make him happy, he went after it and got it for himself. He bought it. Whatever he wanted, he bought it. He accumulated great possessions, herds and livestock, greater than anyone who ever lived before him. His bank account was full of gold and silver and treasures. No financial worries at all. He had singers to soothe his ears, perhaps when he was stressed or unhappy. Solomon had all the women that he wanted. And according to verse 9, Solomon did all of this in a wise and well-ordered manner, at least by human terms of human wisdom, apart from God. But look at the analysis of his experiment. This is what it left him, verses 10 and 11. He said, "And whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil. Then I considered all that my hands had done, and the toil I expended in doing it, and behold, all was vanity, and striving after the wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun." Solomon did whatever he wanted. He had the resources to do whatever he wanted. He had the finances to do and have whatever he wanted. Whatever his heart conceived, Solomon indulged in. He admits it was fun. It was pleasurable. There was some satisfaction that was there. The work and thought involved was enjoyable to him, but it was short-lived. When it was over, when the work was over, the satisfaction was gone as well. There was no lasting impact. When the fun and enjoyable experience was over, he was left empty as well. All was vanity and striving after the wind, and nothing was gained. Why? As we'll see in just a minute, as we've read before, because you die, and it all belongs to somebody else. Let's keep reading. Let's look at verses 12 through 17. Solomon says, "So I turned to consider wisdom and madness and folly. For what can the man do who comes after the king? Only what has already been done. Then I saw that there is more gain in wisdom than in folly, and there is more gain in light than in darkness. The wise person has his eyes in his hand, but the fool walks in darkness. And yet I perceived that the same event happens to them all. Then I said in my heart, What happens to the fool will happen to me also. Why then have I been so very wise? And I said in my heart that this also is vanity. For of the wise as of the fool there is no enduring remembrance, seeing that in the days to come all will have been long forgotten. How the wise dies just like the fool. So I hated life, because what is done under the sun was grievous to me, for all is vanity and is striving after the wind. So not only does he go after self-indulgence, but he sees the vanity of living wisely. Solomon examines this idea of being wise versus this idea of living foolishly. Madness and folly, he says, he explores them. They seem to be the exact same concept, just two words meaning the same thing. And now Solomon will look deeper into living wisely. This is the idea of practical and sensible, a well-ordered life, and living foolishly. This idea of being impulsive and an unstable life, not knowing what happens next, not caring what happens next, but just kind of on a whim, doing whatever feels good or right at the time. I don't think anybody can live life better, at least under the sun, than what Solomon lived life. And it seems that he says, or this idea of maybe the answer is found in being foolish and just living an impractical, impulsive life. And so we can ask Solomon, what's better, living wisely or living foolishly? And Solomon admits there is some kind of gain in living life in a wise manner than living life foolishly. But Solomon says, the same thing happens to the wise man that happens to the foolish man. They both die and are forgotten. Under the sun, there doesn't, this idea of disconnected from eternity, living as if God doesn't matter. Life doesn't matter, because the same thing, whether you live life wisely and practically and you do things the right way, or you live life foolishly and you do dumb and stupid things, the same thing happens to both of you. You die. Your body rots, and you're ultimately forgotten. And whatever you accomplished doesn't really matter. And so Solomon's conclusion, he says, I hate life. If this is all there is, then ultimately it doesn't matter if you're wise or if you're foolish. There's no real advantage to either in this life under the sun. Disconnected from God, disconnected from eternity. So Solomon pursues something else, this idea of hard work. He says it's vain as well. Let's read verses 18 through 23. I hated all my toil in which I toil under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me, and who knows whether he will be wise or foolish. Yet he will be master of all for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. This also is vanity. So I turned about and gave my heart up to despair over all the toil of my labors under the sun, because sometimes a person who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave everything to be enjoyed by someone who did not toil for it. This also is vanity, and he adds to it a great evil. What has a man from all the toil and striving of heart with which he toils beneath the sun? For all his days are full of sorrow, and his work is a vexation. Even in the night his heart does not rest. This also is vanity. Solomon can't live or has trouble with this idea that his life will be left to someone else. There's no real advantage to working hard and getting ahead. Solomon detests the idea that everything that he has, all the fruit of his labor, everything that he's accumulated, when he dies, will be left to someone else. Will a successor be wise? Will they be foolish? Does it matter? Solomon will be dead, whether the person that comes after him is wise or foolish. And it doesn't matter. The person that that gains all of his stuff will be in control of that. He may lose it, he may gain it, he may do something good with it. He says, this is vanity. And so Solomon seems to give it a little bit more thought. Remember this idea of more knowledge increases sorrow, chapter 1 and verse 18. When Solomon dies, the reality is everything he worked so hard could go to a foolish man who didn't work for it. It just falls in their lap. Just becomes theirs. Could waste it all. There's no profit in that. And his concern, I think, was well-founded, because if you look at 1 Kings chapter 12, the heading under, in my Bible, of 1 Kings chapter 12 says, Rehoboam's folly. He was foolish. Successor wasn't wise, he was foolish. We may think, well, I'll leave it to my kids, I'll leave all my stuff to my grandkids. Great. And you might have some satisfaction in that and knowing that they're set up. But when you die, it's theirs, and what you've accomplished really doesn't matter. They may lose it and waste it, or they may use it and spend it wisely. With this temporal life perspective, disconnected from the thought of eternity, Solomon hates his life, he hated his labor, he hated his accomplishments. It was all empty and unfulfilling. It didn't last. It didn't matter. Life under the sun was empty and disappointing and unfulfilling. From a temporal perspective, death robs us of everything. If life doesn't matter, or if God doesn't matter, death robs us of everything. And then here's his conclusion, verses 24 through 26. There's nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment? For to the one who pleases him, God has given wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner he has given the business of gathering and collecting, only to give to the one who pleases God. This also is vanity and a striving after the wind. Since life is empty and unfulfilling, here's how Solomon says we should live. The best thing we can do is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in our labor. This life is empty, so make the best of a bad situation. You can't hope for real purpose and meaning disconnected from eternity. The best thing you can do is find, excuse me, a little bit of contentment and pleasures in your labor, and savor whatever you can until it vanishes or you die. You just have to accept what life throws your way and do your best to make the best of a bad situation. We say it like this: if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Just do the best with what life throws at you. Enjoy while you can, because in the end, you're going to die and you'll be forgotten just like everybody else. That's Solomon's conclusion about life under the sun. You have to accept it for what it is, because ultimately it's empty and unfulfilling. And then in verses 24 through 26, Solomon seems to give maybe somewhat of a revised thesis, maybe even a little bit of a turning point in the book. He says only God can provide real enjoyment in life. Up to this point, God is only mentioned once in chapter 1, all the way through chapter 2 and verse 23. He's mentioned once in chapter 1, verse 13, and only to blame God for man's troubles. But he says God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to the one who pleases him. And not only are these blessings from God, but they can't be enjoyed really apart from God, at least not with any kind of lasting effect. And now with God in the picture, fulfillment and meaning begin to take some shape. It's possible. But he says the life of the sinner, the one who displeases God, it is used as God pleases, even to bring some kind of a blessing to others, but that person's work is only vanity and striving after the wind. And that's chapter 2. Solomon's experiment with pleasure and self-indulgence is very relevant, I think, today. By the millions, people, and I think we can include some followers of Jesus, fill their lives with pleasure and stuff. And I think to some degree we begin to fall into this trap that we equate pleasure and comfort and possessions with meaning and purpose. If I have the things that other people have, then I must be doing something right or something good. And if I can have what I want, then that brings some meaning and pleasure in my life. But I think we ought to ask Solomon that question. Solomon, you accomplished great things, amazing things. How do you feel? Solomon, you built a dream home. How does that make you feel? Solomon, you had a beautiful and immaculately landscaped yard. How does that make you feel? You had people to cater to your every whim, Solomon. That must have been a wonderful feeling. You're the wealthiest person in the world. What could be better than that, Solomon? You can buy the finest of everything. That's got to be a good feeling. Not only can you buy the finest of everything, you could buy 10 of everything, if not more if you wanted to. You could buy whatever you wanted, Solomon. That must be a great satisfaction in knowing that you can have whatever it is that you want. Solomon, you became a celebrity. How does that make you feel? You're famous. People all over the world knew who you are, Solomon. You enjoyed the greatest pleasures that this life has to offer that must provide a great feeling. You possessed real power. You were king. Solomon, doesn't that make you feel good? Aren't you proud of yourself, Solomon? Solomon, tell us how great life is. With everything that you accomplished, everything that you did, you could have whatever you want. Tell me how great the life is. Well, I think Solomon would say something like this. I'm going to die and be forgotten, and everything that I have is going to belong to some fool. Then he will die, and he'll be forgotten too. From Ecclesiastes' perspective, I think that's the way Solomon would have answered those questions. David Guzik said this, few people live for true eternal meaning with their life. They live by the under-the-sun kind of rules. And so they try to work hard, enjoy life, have fun, be nice. If you do bad things, don't get caught and try not to hurt anybody. Isn't that the basic code people live by today? Now listen, he says, I'll be the first one to agree. This thinking may work in making a bad situation better, but it gives no true meaning to life in light of eternity. I think this chapter, Ecclesiastes chapter 2, is very relevant in our culture. So many people are filling their lives with stuff, with possessions, with experiences, things, people, and relationships for the purpose of finding or gaining some kind of pleasure and search for meaning and purpose and fulfillment. And the Bible, I think, addresses that. Look at Luke chapter 9. 23 through 26. This is what Jesus has to say. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world? What profit is it? Jesus says, what true gain is it if you, like Solomon, could have everything you want? If you were able to satisfy every desire of your heart, no matter what it was, sinful or not, if you could have everything that you wanted, Jesus says, for what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses or forfeits himself? For whoever is ashamed of me and my words, of him will the Son of Man be ashamed when he comes in his glory and the glory of the Father and of the holy angels. Jesus seems to say, there's no profit in getting everything you want. Because if that's the case, you will always want more. Because the things that you want, the desires of your heart, if it's all about material, physical possessions, all it's going to do is leave you empty and wanting more and unfulfilled. And Solomon says to the very point that he gave his life over to despair. Look at 1 John chapter 2. 15 through 17. John instructs us, do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eye and the pride of life, is not from the Father, but is from the world. And the world is passing away along with its desires, but whoever does the will of God abides forever. I mean, it's speaking of what Solomon did. The desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, and the pride of life. That's the idea of being able to gain and saying to my heart, heart, whatever you want, I'm going to give it to you. Whatever you want. I'm not going to withhold it. I'm going to give it to myself. That's what Solomon did. And God tells us all of that passes away. That stuff doesn't matter. Now, can it make our life a little easier to some degree? Sure. Yeah. But disconnected from eternity, living as if God doesn't matter, it's useless, unfulfilling, and empty. David was talking to God when he said this, you make known to me the path of life, and in your presence, there is fullness of joy, and at your right hand are pleasures forevermore. You want real joy, real pleasure. Don't seek the things of the world. They will leave you empty and unfulfilled and only wanting more, to the point that you will despair of life itself. Seek God, because in His presence is the fullness of joy and pleasures forevermore. Only God can fill you with joy and peace and contentment and purpose and meaning, to the point that you overflow with His Spirit. And He wants you to experience that. He wants to save you and to fill you with His Spirit so you can live the way that He has purposed life, above the sun in eternity, and not necessarily just under the sun. Because God does matter, and we will give an answer to Him in eternity. And because of that, everything you do matters. And we should, as often as we can, contemplate eternity, because it's coming quicker than you think. Because as David and as James says, we looked at last week, our life is like a vapor. It's like a mist. It's here today, gone tomorrow. Tonight, if you need to respond to the Lord's invitation, we give you that opportunity. If you're ready to put your faith in Jesus through obedience to the gospel by repenting of your sins, being baptized into Christ for the forgiveness of your sins, you can do that this evening. Be raised to walk a new life as a child of God with meaning and purpose to your life. You're already a child of God. Maybe you've been pursuing the things of the world and you see how empty it leaves you, and you're ready to turn back around and pursue the one who saved you. You can do that tonight. Whatever your need is, come forward while we stand and while we sing.